You have stumbled upon an unusual signal, a transmission so different that it might have you questioning everything you think you know about the world around you. These transmissions are intermittent and unforgiving. They bring us the dark tales of folklore, the stories that fade into the night and creep back up to us in our dreams. This is Vast Unknown Radio, where what you're listening to may not be what you're hearing. Our transmitter is powered up and the antenna is tuned and aligned. That old amplifier, she's still humming. They are all around us. They sit in the dark shadows and rest along forest trails. They lurk in the darkest of caves and they hide in plain sight. They are both bold and unassuming, mighty and seemingly insignificant. They hold us up and they can knock us down. They are the very foundation of what holds us suspended in space. So what are these objects, you ask? Well, they're just stones. But when is a stone more than just a stone? Before we get started, I'd like to remind my listeners that while I attempt to keep these transmissions as family and societally friendly as possible, sometimes the topics of esoterica play to the baser instincts of humanity. Locked in our ancient pagan roots, the modern world still worships stones. Diamonds, as they say, are a girl's or an investor's best friend. Rubies, sapphires, and emeralds are sought from every corner of the globe. Still, they're just stones. And though rare as they might be, they are nowhere near as rare as the stones we're going to be examining tonight. Antiquity brings us tales of stones far rarer and more powerful than any held by modern hands. Some are accorded virtues such as the ability to move without the aid of human interference. The gift of voice has been bestowed upon others, and there remains a few that, legend says, can grab a man and hold him fast, whether he's guilty or innocent. So let us begin our travels. In the 9th century, Edgar the Peaceable of the Saxon monarchy outlawed the worship of stones. However, his decree did little to dissuade either pagan or Christian from continuing the habits that had existed for centuries. Many continued their pagan traditions and were slow to discount the power of the earth itself and those mysterious things that they experienced across the countryside. And so their claims of supernatural stones persisted throughout time. One such famous stone is the Talking Stone of Lech-Lefar. This marble slab was placed as a bridge over the Allen River. The slab measured 10 feet long, 6 feet wide, and 1 foot thick. It seemed to be hewn from the earth itself for this very purpose. The treading of time and humankind has worn the stone smooth over the ages. Legend tells the tale of a corpse that was being carried over the bridge on its way to its final resting place. As the bearers crossed the bridge, it is said that the stone began to speak, and in doing so, it cracked across the middle. This crack is alleged to still be visible to this very day. And due to this mysterious incident, corpses were forever banned from being carried across this marble stone bridge. Coincidentally, in the same parish holds another set of stones with similarly eerie qualities. This tale recalls a set of stairs that descend to the seaside. These stairs are said to whisper the sound of bells for those travelers who were adept enough to pause and listen. So where did the sound come from? Well, There is a legend that tells of a band of pirates who stole a bell from the nearby church and carried it off to their waiting ship. Due to the extraordinary weight of the bell, the pirates had to stop and rest, setting the bell on several steps at different junctures. The pirates were never captured and they made off with their loot. But since that time, those stone stairs have called out across the ages. Moving right along, not all stones of antiquity were known to be quite so passive. While talking stones, singing stones, or even ringing stones may cause us to pause and question our sensibilities, let us begin down the path of those special stones that are so unsatisfied with their own existence that they blur the edges of our known science and begin to define their own reality. Our focus now shifts to Brecon and an old Victorian church called St. David's of Lanfays. At this location is preserved a stone that serves as a relic to another mysterious tale. This stone was said to possess the ability to morph from its rigid form and interact with its own surroundings. It is said that the stone uses this ability to act as a guardian of nature and bring forth its own application of justice. There is a tale of a young boy who was engaged in mischief and stealing from a pigeon's nest. As the boy stepped from the ledge, the stone itself caught hold of the boy, and it fused to his skin. Trapped by the stone, the boy was held, exposed to the elements for 3 days and 3 nights. Finally, the boy's parents held a vigil and engaged in a long prayer session. Eventually, seeming by the will of the earth itself, the boy was freed. And to this day it is said that the impression of his fingers still remain on the stone. Reaching even further back into antiquity, we travel to the Theban necropolis, just west of the Nile River. There, on an expansive arid plain, reside 2 statues of enormous proportions. These are known as the Colossi of Memnon, otherwise known as Kam el-Hatten. These massive depictions of Pharaoh Amenhotep III have been seated at this location for well over 3,000 years, believing to have been constructed around the year 1350 BCE. These statues reach 60 feet or 18 meters in height and are spaced 50 feet or 15 meters apart. They are positioned north to south, with the twin statues facing east towards the rising sun and the Nile River. The colossi are formidable in their own right and need no further mystery to supplement their value. However, in the year 27 BCE, a massive earthquake rattled the area and the top half of the northern statue was sheared off, with the bottom half sustaining a severe vertical crack. Since that time, the injured statue has been reported to, quote, moan or sing as the sun emerges and the morning light washes over it. This phenomenon was reported within the Western world by the Greek historian Strabo in 20 BCE. The sound coming from the northern statue has been described as, quote, whistling, the striking of brass, or the sound of a blown instrument. Strabo reported that he had never gotten close enough to the statue to determine the exact source of the sound. However, he advised that the, quote, late winter songs of the vocal Memnon were thought to bring good fortune for those gifted enough to hear it. Similar reports of supernatural emanations from the statue brought flocks of tourists to the region, including several Roman emperors who sought favor with the oracle and other worldly blessings upon their future conquests. The alleged mystical properties of the colossi were well known throughout the region and lasted for over 150 years. The sounds from the northern Memnon statue are alleged to have ceased around 196 Common Era. It was around this time that repairs to the statue were attempted, causing changes to the centuries-old structure and causing the stone to fall silent. Though many have suggested all manner of explanation to the sounds emanating from the stone, there exist other monuments in the region with similar qualities. Could they all be nothing more than the sounds of expanding and evaporating water as heat increases throughout the day and the cold sets in at night? Or were they somehow the whispers of the dead, reaching out across the eons to guide future generations? A more recent report from a reliable source comes to us by way of legendary geologist and zoologist Ivan Sanderson. Sanderson relayed a most curious event involving stones during his travels through Sumatra in 1928. While residing at the home of one of his hosts, he experienced what he called, quote, instant transference, and another anomaly known as loose gravity. Now, we will explore those topics individually at a later time, so for now let's stick to the story at hand. Sanderson reported that while spending an evening outside with one of his hosts on the veranda, he was plagued by the repeated appearance of small pebbles that seemed to be thrown from the dark forest just beyond his eyesight. As Sanderson sat in his chair, these small stones would appear, lobbed from a distance, tumble across the veranda, and come to a rest at his feet. The stones never hit him or anyone else in the vicinity. When he inquired about the source of the stones and who could possibly be throwing them, his host remarked that there is no one in the forest. Further, his host advised that this mysterious appearance of stones was a nightly occurrence whenever visitors from the outside came calling. The man then presented Sanderson with chalk, nail polish, and other assorted marking materials to etch upon the surfaces of the stones. The stones were then thrown randomly in all directions back into the dense forest, only to reappear from the darkness moments later, tumbling across the veranda. The exact same duly marked stones which were thrown back into the jumbled forest were the only stones to reappear. Sanderson remarked at the time that the statistical probability of even finding some of those stones in the tangled forest, let alone returning them almost instantaneously, was near impossible. He suggested that it would have taken ultra-human eyesight along with a powerful light source to accomplish such a task, neither of which existed, at least to his knowledge. He insisted that this was not the work of mammalian hands, but possibly the work of the earth itself. And when presented with this tale, contemporary associate and colleague, Dr. Nander Fodor, was quoted as saying, "Those stones are animated. They are, at least upon assumption, guided. They can change direction in flight at a 45-degree angle. Call them obsessed." This quote can only be followed by the words of Sanderson himself, which read, "In other words, they're mechanically activated." But by what? Stones, of course, are as ancient as the earth itself, so it's no wonder that some of them are imbued with mysterious powers. We use them to build our homes, our roads, and our monuments. They serve us as route markers when we live, and identify our final resting place when we die. Humankind is tied to stones, and stones are tied to humankind. They will, however, outlast us all, and in that aspect, stones have achieved something humanity never can: immortality. So that concludes our transmission for this evening. Let us close with this reminder. Geologists have a saying: rocks remember. Vast Unknown Radio is written, curated, and produced by me. My research assistant is Gypsy. And on the soundboard, well, that's DJ Chainsaw Massacre. Tune in next time for more tales of the esoteric and the unusual. And maybe, just maybe, our signals will cross again. Thanks for listening. This has been Vast Unknown Radio.